and welcome or welcome back. My name is V, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC. Over the last weekend, I got to play a little bit, and I wanted to share my first impressions with you and also hear how you feel about the game as well. So feel free to let me know in the comments if you got to play it, if you enjoyed it, if you noticed any significant crashes or problems, and which part you enjoyed the most. If you're new here on the channel, make sure to subscribe and do leave a like on the video, because if this video gets to 50 likes, I will commit to doing the rest of the playthrough here on YouTube, either on live stream or as an uploaded pre-recorded playthrough. I don't want to start this video off by being negative about the game in any way, but this was my first experience when installing the game, and I think that I should talk about that first. I didn't experience any significant crashes while playing the game itself, and spoilers, I did get to play the game, although there was a point where I thought that I might just not be able to. So recently I did get a new PC, and I never thought that I would have any problems loading the game, but for some reason, when I installed the game and tried to start it, I got a screen where it said that the game was loading the shaders, and it would never move past this screen. So the bar that was filling up as the shaders were being loaded would fill itself up ever so slightly every single time I tried to load the game. So I tried to load the game about 50 times, and I was trying to get to the point where I can press the A button and completely skip the shaders loading, because that was the only way for me to move past the shaders screen and actually get myself into the game. So if this is something that you're experiencing as you're playing FF7 Rebirth on PC, it could be a possible, not a fix, but a sort of a skip that just worked for me. So my experience starting the game was a little soured by that, but it didn't really affect me all that much while I was playing. Now, I do have to give credit where credit is due, and before I even start talking about the game, I have to say massive thank you to my community who helped me fund my first ever good PC last year. And if it wasn't for my community, I doubt I would even be able to play this game on normal settings, let alone Ultra, which is what I've been doing since I've started FF7 Rebirth on PC. So thank you again for that. Thank you for helping me live my dream as a content creator and for having the equipment to create content in the foreseeable future. When it comes to the game itself, this is probably something that you've heard or seen on Twitter or X or whatever it is now. You probably know that the game is just gorgeous. It looks magnificent, and I'm actually not a great complainer when it comes to games, so even if a game doesn't look perfect, if it's a little grainy, if it lags a little bit, I normally don't complain as much. I don't present myself as a big game critique where if the frame rate drops a little bit, I immediately make a video and give it a negative review. I'm a huge believer of just having fun in games, and there is a staggering amount of things that I don't like that I can tolerate in a game for the sake of either story or combat, depending on why I'm in the game. But this game on PC, and especially in highest settings, is just something else. So my first experience with how great this game looks was probably when Cloud was walking around in a sort of a ditch or a field or whatever, where there was rain and there was mud as well. So I know that this is going into details a little bit, but for me, I was just impressed with how he's able to step into the mud and just leave the gentlest footprints, but still make it look so realistic. And this is probably the case in the PlayStation 5 game as well, but being able to see every little detail of the rain, of the mud and the footsteps and the swamp and everything, it was just pretty incredible for me, to the point that I kept zooming in on the footsteps that I was making, and it just felt like I was there in the game with them, which is something that I never really got to experience before, either because I wasn't playing on super high graphics settings or for whatever reason. But this game immediately, even from the very beginning, feels really, really realistic and feels really special. Another bit where I'm noticing that the game has gotten a huge upgrade is the facial texture. Now, there are faces that even felt really well textured even in the PlayStation 5 version of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like Reno's face, Cloud's face, and all these other ones. But this version of the game really helps emphasize that, and I think that overall the game looks incredible. The emotions are very well displayed as per usual, and the game just feels like a movie. There's so many cutscenes even at the beginning, and especially with the prologue cutscenes that if you haven't played on PC, but you haven't, you simply have to do without skipping. It just looks completely incredible. Another obvious detail where you can notice just how aesthetically pleasing this game is the hair and the clothes. And for those of you who are a little bit more techy or know something about the game development in general, you probably know roughly the amount of polygons involved in crafting basically the FF7 Rebirth and Remakes characters' hair. Hair is a big part of just how graphically advanced this game is when it comes to textures of characters themselves. And I'm always impressed to see hair particles in FF7, especially in Rebirth, because you can see pretty much every single hair, the glow on it, and you can tell that a bunch of time has been put into developing this version of the game. It just makes you feel like you're there. I haven't gotten that far into the game, so I can't speak for certain zones or events, and I don't even want to because this video, at the end of the day, is non-spoilery, so I don't want to list any of the events. But when it comes to streaming, I've only done one stream last weekend, and it was one of the coziest experiences that I've lately had. I remember when I was streaming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PlayStation 5 for the first time, I was a bit anxious and antsy, and I started getting more anxious as the game was progressing, just due to the amount of choices that I had to make in game and how distracted I was with all these little things like, oh, I need to pick this up, I need to get these crafting materials, I need to discover this area, I need to do this minigame and that minigame, to the point that at some point I would feel like I can't progress with the main story because there's just all these things that we have to do. This time around it's different. I'm just chilling, I'm choosing to do things that I want to do, which is mostly Queen's Blood, which is something that I always want to do in game, but that I'm really not that concerned with all these little things that I need to pick up because I know very well what I want to focus on. I'd like to see the game in its entirety and in its full glory with all of the graphical updates, and I don't necessarily go around trying to collect absolutely everything to get this or that part of gear or equipment. Streaming it has been very cozy so far, and I've overall felt far less pressure to do this or that. The game is long in itself, but it can be made a lot shorter if you focus on your main objectives, and since I've already finished the game once, I feel like there's no reason for me to go and do things that were less fun for me. This time around, I know very well what's fun and what isn't, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, and I'm perfectly happy just taking control over my playthrough and not worrying about how other people are going to perceive it, whether it looks like I'm missing out on something or not. Lately, my content on the stream has changed quite a bit. I have started learning my first speedrun, Persona 3 Reload in particular, and streaming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth after a difficult long run has just been a welcome break, and I've been looking for a game that I can play in such a way in a very long time. So I feel like if this is something that you would like to see on the channel, I would be very happy to continue with it, to let go and just enjoy the story in the maximum graphic settings for you to enjoy the game in its full magnificence. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you would like to see my playthrough, do keep in mind that this is not my first playthrough, as I've already played through it, but if you'd like to see a repeat on the channel with different recording settings and the game on the highest graphics, do leave this video a like, vote with it so that I know how you feel about it and whether this is something that you'd enjoy. I guess one of the main reasons why I am enjoying this playthrough more so than the first one is because it gives me a chance to go back and actually listen to the story and try to understand it now that I've heard the story of FF7 Rebirth once. I do have to admit, without any spoilers, that I was a little bit confused at the end of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I didn't quite understand what they were trying to say with its ending, and I feel like knowing what I know now, I'm ready for another playthrough and ready to kind of figure things out for myself. Also, when it comes to combat, I wasn't one of those people who was necessarily just pushing one button and playing through the game. But this time around, I feel like I'm already putting a little bit more effort into understanding folios and synergies and these team actions that I'm really starting to enjoy. They're graphically very, very pleasing to perform. The game runs smoothly, and I feel like this is a good opportunity for me to actually learn a little bit more about the combat and enjoy boss fights and random fights as well on a different level than before. So far, my impressions on FF7 Rebirth on PC are quite positive, and I'd love to hear how you feel about it. Regardless of whether you've played the game or not, tell me your thoughts, how you feel about it, whether this is something that you are considering purchasing or playing, or if you're already playing, how you see it, if you have any crashes, if you're enjoying a very particular part of the game, or anything like that. If you're new here on the channel, make sure to subscribe, do leave the video a like, as like I mentioned, I will be posting a full Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PC playthrough in highest graphics here on YouTube, either through live stream or through uploaded playthrough if this video reaches 50 likes, so thank you in advance for that. That'll be all for me for now. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Bye bye.